We optimize hydration, movement, supplements, and sleep, but most people completely ignore the air they're breathing. And when your air is off, your body feels it first. The Blue Signature Air Purifiers by Blue Air quietly remove airborne pollutants, odors, smoke, and allergens, supporting deeper sleep, better recovery, and clearer focus. It's the most customizable air purifier you can get, with exclusive accessories designed to fit your space and your style. Visit blueair.com and use code SIGNATURE30 to elevate your wellness routine.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia high school coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is, Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Sun Coaches Podcast would like to thank our sponsor, Vertical Raise. Elevate your program's fundraising this season with Vertical Raise. Vertical Raise is the premier online fundraising platform for organizations of all sizes, using innovative technology to create the easiest and most efficient system available. Raise more money in less time with your local fundraising coach, who works with you every step of the way to customize the ideal fundraiser for your program. To find out more, reach out to Justin Kilpatrick at justink@verticalraise.com. or follow at Vertical Raise, capital G, capital A, on X. Justin Kilpatrick is a territory sales representative. His number is 229-860-0057. Again, you can reach him at justink@verticalraise.com. Justin is good people. I've met him at a golf tournament this summer, and he's done a lot of good work for a lot of programs over the state. Reach out and see what he can do for your program. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, and today got a special treat, a true Georgia legend, the current head coach at Blessed Trinity High School, Coach Ed Dudley. Thank you so much for being on with us.
Coach Lamb, I appreciate it, my friend. This is exciting, and I'm flattered that you would have me on your podcast.
Well, we sure do appreciate it, and I know during the off week, people have 1,000 different things they'd rather be doing, so I really do appreciate your time, and don't take this the wrong way, but you want an old head. So let's go back in time and tell everybody where you started, where you grew up, where you're from, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, Coach. So I was born in Athens, Georgia. A lot of people have heard of that. They've got a pretty good football team over there right now. I've got a daughter who's a cheerleader there. And my folks packed us up in the 60s and moved to Atlanta. And grew up, I got to play high school football for the great George Maloof at St. Pius in DeKalb County. And, you know, I can remember going off to college and people saying, "Hey, man, were you all state?" I was like, "Man, I grew up in DeKalb County." Like I might have been all backyard, you know, great high school football there in the 70s. Got to go to Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee and played Division III football, one of the definite high points of my life. Met my wife there, and my linebacker coach told me quite often, "You know, Ed, you're playing Division III because there ain't no Division IV." And I was smart enough to go along with that and really embrace it. And it helped me move forward. Started out coaching at Clark Central High School in Athens, Georgia. I tell people that was my master's degree in coaching. I sat at the knee of the great Billy Henderson and took copious notes and got yelled at a lot. And, you know, we had some pretty decent players and a great run down there. And wouldn't trade that for anything. My wife and I still talk about taking the 16 millimeter film to East Point to get developed and duplicated, and then driving back for the early morning defensive meetings on Saturday morning. And
yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah.
It was the only place you could take it.
Yeah, everybody had to drive there. There was a place in South Carolina that was right across, you know, just north of Savannah. There weren't very many places statewide where you could get your film developed. And if you wanted it back on Saturday, when Coach Henderson did, somebody had to go and sleep in the 71 Toyota Corolla, and that happened to be me and Lynn. And it was fun, adventuresome, and we were winning. You can do anything when you're winning. And I went from there and spent some time with crazy Steve Brooks at Statesboro High School in beautiful Statesboro, Georgia, before it had kind of blown up. It was right on the cusp of becoming a national treasure and a true powerhouse in football over there at Georgia Southern. And my next. Now, we moved a lot. We can get into that later, but we moved too much. But my next coaching job was at Darlington School in Rome, Georgia. I worked for the great Jerry Sharp, who taught me a lot about patience. And I was his offensive line coach for 2 years. And we had a lot of great players. Had a good running back, Will Muschamp, went on to have a pretty good coaching career and playing career at Georgia, as a matter of fact. We had a lot of great players in that group. And
yeah, he wasn't bad.
Yeah, he was decent. Mitch Jordan, who was a longtime head coach at Mount Perrin, he was on that team. We just had a lot of great players. We really did. And then spent 4 years as Ben Scott's defensive coordinator at Carrollton High School in Carrollton, Georgia. We had a good run defensively and won a lot of games, had a lot of great players, a lot of team speed, and a great track program. It was a lot of fun. And then I lost my mind and became the head coach at Buford for a short stint, 3 years, and we won a lot of games. And I got greedy, and I thought I needed to be a head coach at a big school, so I went to Walton High School in Marietta, Georgia, and spent 14 or 15 years there. And fabulous place. And all my kids were born there, and we won a lot of games. Went to Ware County, Georgia, after that for 5 years. That was a blast, and had a short stint as the head coach at Carrollton High School again, and they asked me politely to leave, so I did, and went on to retired from the public schools and went to Wesleyan High School as an assistant coach and got to work for Franklin Pridgeon, a great head coach. And I spent 5 years at Winder Barrow High School, and now I get to be the head coach at Blessed Trinity. So that's my long and winding road. Over 30 years as a head coach and another 10 as an assistant. So it's been fun so far. It's been a good start.
Well, that's awesome, Coach. I know we talked about a mutual acquaintance that we have that you ran across in Ware County. And when you said you went to St. Pius High School, he always called it St. Pius the X.
The X, baby.
I'm like, that stands for 10, right?
We always laugh. We always laughed about that, and I see kids from St. Pius today, and I'll say, what's the X stand for? They get a big kick out of it. So,
and then one of Milt Miller, his son, and I were roommates at Georgia Southern, and he loved Coach Scott.
Oh yes, they were bestest of buddies,
and they called him All Right Then Ben. And he told,
all right then, because he was always talking.
All right then. And then they said that the story was, the way they got that story was, y'all had some big lineman kid, and Coach Scott got mad or something and jumped on the kid's back and was like kicking him in the butt and trying, run or something. And he said, son, my grandmother can run faster than you. And the kid ripped his helmet off and was crying. He said, well, all right then, let's get her up here.
Let's get her up here and see how she can play.
Yeah. So Milt used to say that all the time. He'd go, well, all right then, let's get her up here.
See how good she is.
No matter what we were doing, he would say it. Like, it's like, hey, Coach, let's go here. Well, all right then, let's get her up here. And I'm like, where'd that come from? All right then, Ben.
That was him.
That's awesome. So
the late great Ben Scott. He was my dear friend and an incredible coach. We talk about all the time if he had lived, what would he be doing now? So.
Man, just the number of awesome people that you got to be around as a younger coach.
So very fortunate, Chris. You don't get to lay your whole life out, and I kind of stumbled into a lot of those opportunities. The one at Clark Central, my dad taught a Bible study in Athens, and he heard they were looking for a linebacker coach. I sent them a FedEx, man. That was before just about any kind of fast communication, cell phones, any of that stuff. And I sent them a FedEx letter overnight with my resume in it. Coach Henderson actually called me back and said, "Hey, can you be here tomorrow at 9 a.m. for an interview?" And put my young bride in the Mazda 626 and drove overnight to Athens, Georgia, so I could, get a chance to just interview there. And then I got the job and got to learn a ton. Just very, very fortunate.
Yeah, you go back. A lot of people ask, want to know, how do you know all these people? How do you get, the job stuff, whatever. And I'm like, well, there's really 6 trees. Coach Henderson's one of the roots of the tree. You hear people all the time say, he's a Henderson guy. I did not know you were a Henderson guy.
Yes, sir. I am a Billy Henderson man, molded by the best. And, it's, and we were talking off the air earlier just about how, he was such a great delegator that, he gave you a job to do. He held you accountable, made sure that job was done on that week-to-week basis, but didn't really micromanage you, expected you to kind of figure it out. And that's, where Ben Scott and I got to be friends and got to coach with Chuck Conley, who won an awful lot of football games at Screven County. And we had Brady Sigler. We had an incredible coaching staff, John Barnett, sweet Bobby Knox. And, Coach Henderson was a tough taskmaster. He expects you to do your work in the classroom to the best of your ability. Anytime we had an event, you had to show up in a coat and tie. Or, he was going to send me home from our Tiff County game early on. We were loading the bus, and I didn't have a coat and tie on to ride a bus to Tifton, Georgia, from Athens, Georgia. And he was like, "Coach, you're going to have to go." And I managed to scrounge up a coat and tie in about 5 minutes and get my proper seat on the defensive bus. But, he was.
You figured it out.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And that's an expression. We were talking about Coach Miller, and that was another one of Ben Scott's big expressions, was figure it out. And I darn sure did. So fabulous experience.
So your first head coaching job, how was that?
It was awesome. It was great. It was on the job training. Nothing, I had worked for really good coaches, Billy Henderson, Steve Brooks, who was technically he's still coaching. He's 70 years old, still coaching. Jerry Sharp, who I just loved to death and thought the world of, and the great Ben Scott. And so I had a good background, but there's just nothing that prepares you to be the head coach of a high school football program. All the stuff that gets thrown at you and the details, and you can buy every Chris Parker book in the world and still not be ready to be the head coach. It's tough sledding. It's just straight on the job training. And I think the thing I had not really prepared myself when I was just 29, when I got to be the head coach at Buford, was just the constancy, the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year of it. And I had been in programs where we worked really hard, but it was just, you're only a phone call away from the next big problem.
Yeah, I talked to Coach Ford last night, and he was talking about he said, like everybody else, like drinking from.
Hey, it's Bubba Wallace from 2311 Racing. You know what feels like forever? Sitting on a plane waiting for takeoff. Good thing I've got Chumba Casino. With daily boost and social casino games on tap, this is the kind of fun that makes time fly. Why not turbocharge your downtime? Play now at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm a fire hose.
Yeah. Good way to put it. And we have, John and I share the Buford experience, which there've just been a very few of us. And it's a tough place to coach and to live when, their metric is game 15. You can either win game 15 or you can get on down the highway. And
one thing you hit on that's real. Sorry to cut you off, but the It Never Sleeping, Nick Davis, who I had on, he's been on a prior podcast. He said, one thing that you assistants don't understand about being a head coach is y'all can go home. You can go to bed. You can forget about it. He's like, my phone don't ever stop. When you're the head coach, there is no off season. There is no off week. There is no go home and forget about it.
You're the head coach, and we've always laughed about, you got in the Mercedes, there's a guy down the parking lot with a gun. Well, somebody go get the head coach. They don't say call the police. Or I remember I had decided to leave Walton High School and loved the place, just had poured my heart and soul into it. And I'm in this heart-to-heart meeting with my principal, who I loved her, and she had been good to me and had babysat my children. I mean, this was a very emotional meeting, and two of my linebackers burst through the door and said, Coach, come quick, the toilet's overflowing. And she just kind of looked at me, started laughing. She's like, it never stops, does it? I was like, no, it never stops.
Your daddy, your janitor, your peacemaker, mayor.
a lot of stuff. You wear a lot of hats as a head coach, or you don't wear that hat for very long. Those are your options.
So let's segue into Walton. I know you were there the longest, and so talk about Walton a little bit. I know it's a special place. I've had Rocky on already, and he loves you more than anybody on the planet.
I got Rocky and Kelly Fool. They're two of my favorite people on earth. Just think the world of them. And, the Walton experience was fabulous. I was still very young and relatively inexperienced, and we were trying to build a football program and build, at that time, a quad A football program. So we had jumped in the deep end, and we honestly did not have the kind of facilities and infrastructure and coaching staff that we needed to be competitive. And so we were kind of starting not at ground zero, because they had a good feeder program, but pretty far down the ladder. And we really had to build everything up from the ground up. And the best thing I ever did, I hired Dave Hunter at Brookwood High School to come over and do a consulting job with us. And man, I don't think I didn't pay him very much money at all to come over and work as hard as he did to kind of straighten me out from a booster club standpoint, a fundraising standpoint, a staff organization standpoint. He did a ton to really help us out. And that would have been, around 2000, that era, and really got us headed in the right direction. We had a couple of good teams, and I think technically we were coached pretty well, but all that off the field stuff, we weren't doing as well as we could, and we weren't doing it well enough to win at a big time Metro Atlanta program. And so that kind of kicked us into high gear, and we built a field house, we built a stadium, and kind of got the thing up and running, kicked some tires and lighted some fires and turned around. We had a couple of good teams, never did win a state title or anything, but we had some really good teams and good players. A lot of D1 kids came through, and they're still doing it. Daniel Bruner's doing a great job over there.
Yeah, that's a different universe for me, but listening to you guys talk about how special that place is and listening to different people that have been there, it doesn't change.
Right. And we sit around as old coaches and Chris, I tell you, you're in the middle-aged coach group, but we sit around and say, schools don't really change much. They do, but they kind of are who they are.
Oh, I agree with that 1,000%.
Like some of these schools are, some schools are 10-0 schools. Some schools are 7-3 schools. And by golly, some of them are just 5-5 schools. And, Walton, that place it sweats excellence. Everything they do, and that's what the AD, Dennis Jordan, when he hired me, he said, look, man, we want to be like Stanford. We're good in everything. We want to be good in football too. And that kind of became our motto. We want to be good in everything and not just spring sports or, debate or cross country, or maybe 400 kids in the band there. And you look at places like Lowndes County High School, in another geographic part of the state, and they're kind of like that. They got 400 kids in the band, and they probably have 500. And they're good in all their sports, and they're good at debate. We want to be good at everything. So as a football program, we had to step up to the level of the rest of the school, quite honestly, that's different.
Yeah, you hit on something right there about schools being what they are. I mean, it's funny when we talk about going to interview for head coaching jobs or any job really, is doing your research. And, you can think you're going to go in there and change you're not. And, remember when Bowden was down?
Yeah.
And everybody was saying, well, they're not going to stay like that. They're not going to be down long.
And they weren't.
And they weren't. Or we say that, and I just picked them as an example. But there's lots of schools that all of us sit around and go, well, they'll be back.
And in general, if you look at the funding, you look at the community support, you look at the quality of kid that's coming through in different areas around our state, it's pretty consistent. And Buford's a good example. That when we had 300 students, we were winning. They won state titles under Ed Cochran with 300 kids in one of the tiniest Class A schools you'll ever see, and less than stellar facilities. And now they got as good of facilities as any place outside of Texas, and they're still winning. And Walton High School, there's another good example. They've had 4 head coaches in the last, 30 years or so. And, they continue to win. They played for it this past year. Probably the quarterback stayed healthy. They probably win it, So it's just, I believe schools kind of are what they are. And, they'll change a little bit, and guys have gone in places and improved them. But if you're kind of a average high school coach like me, and you can't walk on water, then you're probably not going to change a place a whole heck of a lot.
No. And and then there's other places at the other end of the spectrum that you scratch your head and you wonder, you're like, man, they ought to be, well, then there's something wrong. It's not that all those people that went there and coached there aren't morons.
Right. And there's some places that are just, it's tough to win, whether it's geographic location, their funding, all those different things. I always have told people when I walk into a weight room and I'm the tallest guy in there, that program's up a creek. That's not a good situation. Yeah. So it's just, some different places have different attributes and stuff. And the only person I ever knew that was kind of a miracle worker, and won everywhere. T. McFerrin was kind of a miracle worker. He could kind of walk on water and stuff. But the rest of us are pretty normal,
Yeah, there's a very small group that,
Yeah, I'm not in that club. I missed the initiation ceremony.
Yeah, Charles Winslet.
Yeah,
I'd say
great
he's in
example.
that group.
Yep.
Hodges when he was coaching.
No doubt.
Coach Henderson.
Billy Henderson, I'm telling you, what was it they used to say about Bear Bryant? He could take yours and beat his, and he could take his and beat yours.
Yeah.
That's Billy Henderson was kind of like that. And Jerry Sharp, who won 3 in a row at East Rome, and then turned around and won 1 at Darlington, where everybody said there's no way he could do it. Some
Heron.
of those guys can. Jeff Heron can definitely walk on. He knows where the stumps are.
Yeah.
I hope Jeff's listening to this. I stay jealous of him. Too smart and too pretty, and knew where all the stumps were. He was that guy.
Yeah. When I remember, it was like 10 years ago. I thought he was my age.
Yeah.
And somebody was like, "No, dude, he's been doing this. He's been doing this a long time." And I'm like, "Golly, he's good. He looks like he's in great shape." And they're like, "Because he is." I'm like, man, he looks young.
They say take all your money playing basketball too. So I stay away from that with Jeff. Great coach. So like we're saying, there's that club, and and they're all a little bit different.
So when you left, what on God's green earth possessed you to leave Walton to go south?
I
mean, I'm a South Georgia guy. I'm just trying to.
We love Waycross. Now, Waycross is near and dear to my heart. It's funny, Chris. I told people I just got tired of pulling up in the same parking space. I'd been there for 14 years, and I live right beside the school, and walk to school most days. And I just kind of decided I needed a new challenge, something new to do. And I'm not saying it was smart, but it's what we end up deciding to do. And it turned out great for my family, probably great for Walton High School. And we went to Ware County High School to become Gators and live in the swamp. And it was a fabulous experience. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. Great teams, we had some great assistant coaches there. Just can't say enough good things about that community and that place. And, we always say that's one of those places just kind of is what it is, right? I mean, it is elite at high school football and a lot of things. Their riflery team is elite. It's the community wants great education and great sports and great drama. They had a little community theater there where my little girls grew up acting in plays and stuff. We just loved it, and we thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends in that area and on that staff now, and we were near there in the past, but just love that area. And you're right. I mean, there's just some places, that whole pocket down there between them, Appleton County, Pierce, Wayne County. I mean, just
Clinch going down,
that whole area down there. And I mean, you don't go far and you hit Cook, Fitzgerald. I mean, that.
Just love the small town atmosphere. People always ask me, what's the difference between, North Georgia football and South Georgia? And they're always looking for something technical or the speed of the game or the toughness of the kids. But really, it's just the community spirit, which, it's hard to build in Metro Atlanta. But you see the best teams, the most successful teams.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Game night's fun until someone spends 5 minutes lining up one shot. Chalk, breathe, re-chalk, still aiming. While they figure it out, I fire up Chumba Casino. I can spin anywhere, anytime, and there's always a new social casino game every week. Spins happen way faster than that shot. Play now at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Do build that community spirit, and they are like their own little small town within Metro Atlanta. In a place like Waycross, well, if I had a kid that I can remember having a player that had a toothache, in a bad abscess, needed oral surgery, and we passed the hat around town, and in half an hour I had enough money to go down and take him to get his jaw worked on and get his tooth worked out. That's not everywhere. That doesn't happen at every school.
Right. Takes a village.
Definitely. That's the only thing that Hillary Clinton ever said that I fully agree with. So it does take a village to raise my kids and everybody else's just as well.
And in small towns, that's the mentality. I mean, that's just what it is. I mean,
yeah, I think, you don't have much choice. I mean, you got to kind of rely on each other. We enjoyed it. We don't ever talk about Ware County Gator football without getting big smiles on our faces.
And then you feel the call back to home. Well, not home, but going back somewhere where you started, where one of your
right. They gave it the whole college try, and I tell people all the time, I'm quite proud of the fact that I got fired for not winning enough games. It wasn't anything immoral or unethical, and some things just don't work out, and maybe the Peter principle, you rise to your level of incompetence. That might have been in effect, but man, that was definitely a crash and burn, and you bounce back from that, just like my high school coach George Maloof taught us. You get knocked down, you get back up. It's
what was Wesleyan like? I mean, you kind of got to go home.
Wesleyan was interesting. It was good. I had my nephew Chip Myrick, who's the offensive coordinator over there. He was defensive coordinator at the time. I went over there and I thought I was interviewing for the defensive line job, and I walked in the door and they said, "Hey, we need an offensive coordinator." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm a defensive guy." And they were like, "Well, it's the job we got, take it or leave it." And I said, "Well, I kind of need a job, so I'll take it." But it was great. And Franklin Pridgeon, he's an awesome coach. And I don't know if you've ever seen the place. It looks like Hogwarts or, Oxford in England. It's fabulous. And we had some tough kids there, playing two-way small high school football. And man, that was fun. My younger son, Sam, he thrived there. He was a good player, and his sisters liked it. And my daughter, Margaret, is also a graduate of that place. She's still a cheerleader at Georgia, an accounting major. We're real proud of all four of our kids, and three of them graduated from Wesleyan. So that was a good time in the Dudley household.
Well, it's funny that you brought that up, and we talked about young coaches a little bit earlier, and I know you've come across it over the years, probably more than you'd like to remember, but you tell them, this is what we got. Oh, I'm a defensive coach, or I'm a this coach, or I coach this, and it's just funny that somebody of your history and your background, even you have that thought. You're like, well, I'm a defensive coach, but you probably didn't verbalize it.
No, I think I told him.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I think I said, Franklin, and he said, well, I'm the defensive line coach, so you got to do something else. And, I got a business card. I'll pass this along to young, old, whoever might listen. But Billy Henderson, said, hey, go over to the printer and get you a business card made. He was very big on professionalism, coat and tie to everything we did. And, wanted you to be a great teacher. And I said, okay, well, what do I put on there? Do I put on there linebacker coach, inside linebacker coach? And Coach Henderson said, you put on there assistant football coach, because that's what you are. Whatever the head coach says, you do. And I pondered on that for about 10 seconds, and I gave the exact right answer, Chris. I said, yes, sir, and turned around and walked out of his office and went and did what he said. So every business card I ever had when I was assistant coach didn't say offensive coordinator, play caller. You hear how guys, I hear guys, young fellas talk all the time. Well, I'm the play caller. Well, good for you. That's everybody can yell at you from the stands.
Yeah.
But my business card, my business card said assistant football coach, because I was there to assist the head coach in whatever he said to do. So
I won't mind to say that guy.
Yeah.
When people say, who's that guy?
They. We're still trying to figure out who they is. Ben Scott started on that 1984. We started looking for they, because a kid would come running and said, they said to come in here and get a helmet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so ever since then, over 40 years now, I've been looking for they. Yeah. I still hadn't found them, but I will someday.
Yeah. I would like to become they.
You will. Believe me, I'm a little closer than you are, but we all will at some point.
But yeah, I wouldn't mind being. I tell people all the time. They're like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm that guy." When somebody says, "Who's that guy?" I'm that guy. I'm the get back coach. I'm the whatever.
Whatever it takes, baby.
Whatever needs to be done. You see, just do it. Just do it, and if it's not right, just apologize, and that's not where the dummies go.
Deal with why on Sunday, Yeah, that's the thing. After the middle of the game is not a great time to start asking why.
No, or the middle of practice, or whenever. I mean, I try to tell young coaches that. I'm like, look, man, let's go pick these dummies up, or let's do that. That's not my job. Do what? That's not, that wasn't on my, it's all our job.
That's right. Or as my dad used to say, fill your hands with some work, boy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yep.
Coach, I don't think this is where these dummies go. Well, this is where they're going now. They're
For right now. Nobody's going to trip over them. You're not having the start and tailback trip over the dummies.
Yep, and we ain't got to get off the lawnmower to get them out of the way. And, you know, if the head coach wants to know where the dummies are, we can say, well, we put them here. Well, why are they there? Well, they had to be put up, and that's where we put them. And he'll eventually go, oh, okay, well, let's make sure next time they go here.
Right.
You're not going to get blowtorch too bad for that.
It becomes an issue when he told you to put them X and you put them Y intentionally. Then, you know.
Yeah.
Then there's some explainification that has to go.
Explainification. So you leave Wesleyan and you go to the 2Gs Winder Barrel Bulldogs.
The double G Dogs for 5 years. And good experience, great town. We didn't have just a ton of success, but definitely enjoyed my time there. And you know, you're always learning and getting better, I think. And I definitely learned a lot out there and got better. And it's kind of bebopping along. We'd moved out there and thought that might be the last stop in the rodeo, and got an opportunity, got a phone call out of the blue and an opportunity to come talk to the people at Blessed Trinity and have a chance to come over here and coach. And it's been so far so good. That's I'll call the experiment so far so good. We had a good year last year, good coaching staff, most of whom were already in place. Good group of kids that come out of a good feeder program. They've been hammered on the fundamentals through 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Hopefully we're going to work hard this summer and have a great year in the fall. That's what we're looking forward to.
Did y'all do spring this year?
We did not. So Tim McFarland, you know, who was the head coach here for 11 years, he didn't do spring when he was here. And they were quite successful. They won 3 in a row, and I kind of looked at that. I looked at the academic load our kids are under in the spring, and I would say that was our number one factor. They're just tired by the time they get to May, you know, the first 2 weeks of May. And then our seniors graduate that second week in May. So it just, I don't know. It's an experiment in progress. We may do something different next year, but this year we did not do it. So we're going to see how it plays out.
Well, you know, with OTAs and everything else going on in the summer, I really don't know if it's worth the headache of doing spring.
You know, it's definitely a values decision. I think that there's some benefit to doing. I mean, obviously there's benefits to doing it. I wonder, you know, sometimes about college coaches coming by and eyeballing your kids, but, you know, I don't know that that's totally valid reason for doing it. And
I saw somebody put on Twitter that it was our obligation to do spring when the college coaches, that ran me hot. I was like, no. Wrong.
Yeah.
Those college coaches.
That's not a two-way street.
No, Coach, negative. No, they're not recruiting our kids anyway. Not with the portal and the way things are now, unless you're a dude. No, dude.
Yeah. And then you don't need to try, you know, so we've got a kid.
We're not catering to them.
Right. We've got a 5-star linebacker that you can't hide him from colleges. I have colleges come in from every one of the lower 48 states that know about him. And by the same token, there's nothing you can do in a drill with Ed Dudley that'll get them excited about recruiting me. So it's just, I don't know. I go back and forth on a lot of it. The portal, we could do a whole podcast on the portal, which I think is in the book of Revelations as a sign of the Antichrist. But, you know, I can say that because I'm at a Catholic school now. I get to quote whatever I want to quote. But it's just a, you know, difficult decision about spring ball. And I think that, you know, sometimes a look back at history is, your best clues to success for the future. And I just kind of looked at what Coach McFarland was doing. They won 3 in a row here, so they obviously were doing some things right. And he just didn't. He believed it was spring ball was too much for our guys. They all play 2 sports here. We only have about 900 students, and so we field 21 sports, so they're all doing something. And so we'll see how it goes. I've generally been a big proponent of spring football, but I feel pretty fresh and ready to go, and I hope they do too.
So over the years, just from the game, the high school game, what have you noticed, good, bad, and different, has changed?
Well, the style of football is a lot different right now. They have this thing, the forward pass, that's really changed a lot of what we're doing. I think the other thing, and probably the biggest change I see, is that cell phone, the instant gratification mindset, the rapidity of communication. You can get messages out to kids, which is both good and bad. When Coach Henderson typed up a letter and sent it out to all the players, that you knew that was going on the fridge. Well, when I send out stuff on Twitter or X or whatever it's called today, I don't know that any of them even look at it, because they look at so much. Do they really see it? So I think that's been the biggest change and difference in it. And then, I like a lot of the stuff I see. I like the Guardian cap that's out there. I like the fact that that there's a huge push on safety of the game.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
That backwards tackling that we do now, that my coaches all tell me is Seahawk tackling. I think I've become convinced that that's better. And, there have been a lot of changes, and some for the better and then some for the not better. I wish parents would back out of the game a little bit. I know all coaches say that, the best place to coach is an orphanage, and, they all have jokes and stuff about it. But I would like to see parents ease up on their kids a little bit. I think that too often they don't really know the game or didn't play the game. And so, their level of expertise in evaluating their son's talents really not very high. But I was fortunate. My dad had been a good player and was an SEC referee, so he knew his 2 boys were pretty darn average, and so he wasn't running up there and yelling at Coach Maloof to get us any more playing time than we had already deserved. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I was fortunate. My dad worked in a paper mill, so he wasn't able to be there. He worked shift work, so
yeah, my dad was out of town most of the time, because they traveled on Fridays to get to those Saturday games.
Yeah. And mine wasn't going to do it anyway. He's like, well, you figure it out, and you're going to play or you ain't. And if you ain't, you're going to be a good teammate. So, but you're going to be out there. So,
and I think that's, that's golden right there. I think that's, something Moses could have brought down from the mountain top and said, hey, be a great teammate, play when they tell you to, and sit when they tell you to also. So
it makes a difference. So changing over into the coaching aspect of it, you've had to hire a lot of coaches over the years. What's changed?
I think that younger coaches, and we kid around about it as older coaches, they all want to be the coordinator. They want to coordinate stuff. And, Ben Scott used to have people who could coordinate the locker room. You coordinate the toilet patrol or whatever. I think that desire to be in charge without the proper preparation, a year or 2 of experience, that kind of stuff. I see a lot more of that. I meet with young coaches, and it's hard to hire young coaches because a lot of times they can go out and make more money doing something else, and especially the kind of crazy hours and responsibilities that we have in the high school coaching world, a lot of people don't want to fool with it right now. And the ones that you do talk to, they want to be in charge of something. They want ownership, and you may or may not have it. I've had my same offensive coordinator for 30 years, and defensive coordinator, and I've been together a long time too. So it just not a lot of openings at that level. Sometimes you just got to get in and work and pay dues and stick around for a little bit.
Well,
so I think that's the thing I see more than, and then some of the basics, like they don't really get, like lining fields, and it's important to line fields. Kids, especially with this, the spread air raid offenses, you got to have the numbers painted, and you got to have the hash marks painted. You can't just, slap a couple of sidelines down and get to practicing.
I don't know if he was on y'all staff. I imagine he was. Randy Padgett.
Good friend.
Coach, could you imagine a young coach looking at him and telling him, I'm not going to, fill in the blank?
Fill in the blank. It wouldn't have gone well. I'm just saying. It's,
Padge would have looked at him like, you're not going to do what? I don't even know if he said that. It's been like,
he would have told you where the door was.
Yeah.
I can hear him right now.
With several colorful metaphors in between it.
Yeah, he probably would have given you a little spirited pep talk with that. But that man had his desk in our equipment room. That's where he worked from. And he had every pair of shoes sized and lined up by size. And he could tell you how many shoelaces there were in there on any given day, how many practice jerseys.
Yeah, I had the privilege of working with him at Villa Rica, and he was awesome. I mean, 1 year with him, and I was like, man, I wish I could have spent my career working with Coach Padgett. He was awesome.
A real taskmaster. He was good, boy.
Smart.
I think it was his birthday yesterday, I believe. Yesterday or the day before, I talked to him then.
Really?
Yep. We decided we were all doing good for old people.
That's all. I remember he was running the mesh concept, and he called it Z Shallow A. He was running shallow cross way before people started calling it whatever.
Oh yeah,
or whatever. But he called it Z Shallow A, and then it was
Z Shallow A. He and Randy Padgett and Brad Campbell. They kind of pioneered a lot of that forward pass stuff.
Oh yeah. And I mean, we're sitting there running wing T, Rob Cleveland at Villa Rica, and he kind of got Padge in there to kind of give us a passing game out of it. So Padge is sitting there looking at the double slot, old Georgia Southern Flexbone looking sets that we're running the wing T stuff out of, and he's having to engineer the passing game out of it, and he's able to figure out how to run, the follow and the shallows and the mesh and everything else out of it, and marry it into our terminology. And it wasn't huddle, so I mean, we're getting handwritten, hand drawn. I still have it,
and I'd save that, Coach. That's good stuff right there. Now,
I mean, it's just, I just remember it was just, and the way he taught it was so simple. Like, I mean, Z Shallow A, you're the Z. I'm telling you what to do, son. All you have to do is know your position.
Learn, repeat, and rinse, repeat, right?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Well, you said earlier one of the things that moving a lot.
And I have. And, I try not to have a lot of regrets, but I really wish I had kind of stayed and been more patient, especially in my younger days. There's a move or two along I wouldn't have made, hindsight being 2020, which it's, there's no such thing as hindsight. So, you push forward and move on. And, anytime you move, and Ben Scott said it all the time, moving up means moving on. A lot of times if you want to climb that coaching ladder, you got to pack your family up and go. And, I got to make the key point in all that, which is, you better marry the right woman. You better marry somebody who's bought in on this coaching experiment, that believes, that it changes lives and that it's worthwhile. Because if not, everybody's going to be miserable. And my wife was a college athlete and a high school athlete, and coached by really good people. And she was 100% bought in on the value of coaching. And a couple of years back, my surgeon looked at me and said, you really should retire from coaching. The stress has, ruined your heart and blah, blah, blah. And she looked him dead in the eye and said, "Doctor, would you retire from surgery?" She's like, that's who he is. He's a coach. He's, he can't just give that up. And so that's been our mindset, that it's a missionary field, that what we do is valuable, that, she was always willing to move to the next town down the line and try to do something to make that athletic program better. So been very fortunate in that. You got to find that right wife who will pack your kids up and move them to the next town, and move them to Waycross and teach them about gators and cottonmouths and all that kind of stuff.
Stay away from that.
Can't jump in the pool. Yeah. Can't jump in the pool till you check for cottonmouths. You got to go check the drains for the cottonmouths. So
yeah, I married a good one too, but she's at a point now. Chad Alligood messes with me all the time. Says I got all the T-shirts, and I'm like, well, in my defense, all of my moves were vertical or for a raise. That's just what it is. I mean, you can pay me more money. Yeah. I can drive there. I'll take more money. I got to get my retirement up because I'm not going to be a head coach. Yeah. That's over.
It's
I missed my window.
I would not be, and you would not be sitting where you are today without those moves. And,
correct.
Although some of them, were a punch in the nose, you have to go through that to be in the seat I'm in tonight and today. And
correct.
I'm very fortunate that I got to make all those moves, that I have friends all over the state, from one end to the other. I'm as fortunate and, that overused word blessed as they come. So I have a great job today because a couple of times along the way, I stumped my toe and, learned from the experience and dusted myself off and moved forward.
Well, I tell people all the time, I don't regret any decision that I've ever made except for one, because every decision I made at the time was the best decision I could make with the information as it was presented. And that's the way I think. I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's just the way my brain works. Like you said, there's no hindsight. I have to think that at the time, with the information that was presented to me, I made the best decision I could make. I only have one time that I did not, but
I got two, so you still got time.
Yeah, well,
got time.
I should have taken the GA job at Duke baseball when I was offered. That's my one, because I would have moved just as much. And right now, not only would I have I'm a dissertation away from a doctorate, but I'd have a master's degree from Duke, and I'd probably be the head baseball coach at a mid-major somewhere by now, Yeah,
you might, or
I'd still be doing what I'm doing.
Exactly. And that goes back to the whole hindsight thing. There's always that or it could be worse,
Yeah, I could be bagging groceries at a Jimmy Joe's Quick Sack, Publix got good benefits.
They do, and I think they're paying $13 an hour, Chris, if you want to.
That's what I tell people all the time. I can go to Lowe's and tell you where to find nails. I can do that.
And I have done a lot of that stuff along, and we've painted houses.
Yes.
We've done what it takes to make ends meet.
Absolutely. I just try to get them within shouting distance. I've never got them to meet, but I can get them where they can holler at each other. And
there you go.
But that's, this business has been great. You've been such a huge part of it. So many lives touched. I'm so honored to have you on and finally get to talk to you, because, there's so many people that I know that know you and have worked with you, and it's like I've never really gotten to sit down and talk to you, and everybody's always told me, how awesome you are and how good it is to talk to you, and that you got to get Coach Dudley on. I've always kept up with you and followed you, and we've communicated back and forth over the years, but never really, sat down and talked. But I appreciate you coming on.
It is the industry. Yes, sir. It's the industry that networks tighter than anybody else. Coaches love other coaches, and we help each other, and that makes us different. That's a big part of what's different about coaching. And I'm just honored that you take a little time out of your day and have me on your show. I can't wait to see how dumb I really sound on the interweb.
Nah, it'll be great, but I sure do appreciate you being on with us, Coach.
It's been fun, Chris. We'll do it again sometime.
Thanks, Coach.
Take care.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.